He's been living here at Williamtown for a little over 12 months, lives by himself. He's gone without a lot of things that you would normally take with you, wallets and mobile phones, so it makes it difficult.
There's lots of drains in the immediate vicinity, lots of swamp area. We've got people out who are trudging through some pretty wet country at the moment.
Since 1985, Kmart has been a constant in Maitland's CBD, and now it's staying until at least 2030.
This is the greatest boost of confidence that Maitland people could have, that a company wants to extend a lease for 15 years.
It's a relief for other retailers and particularly council, which is facing growing criticism over the slow progress of the levy project and its design. A controversial kiosk, large circular gardens bearing little greenery, and the paving, all under fire.
This working party agreed. To what you see now, they agreed.
That is categorically untrue. There would be the majority, the 27-28, that can affirm that this is not what they wanted.
Today, the state's Small Business Commissioner announced she'll meet with retailers later this month.
She's very concerned with a lot of aspects of the reasons why this city centre in the fastest growing shire in New South Wales is in such a state as it is.
The Maitland City Action Group also says it's assembling 12 candidates for the next council election.
I believe resoundingly that everybody's ready for a change.
And I can only appeal to the business community. Yes, we know you're doing it tough, but please, give things a chance. It's only another month to go.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
It's where people go when they have nothing left, but they could be about to lose that lifeline too. The financial counselling Hunter Valley project's future is currently under review by the state government.
We want the Minister to realise that this is a really important service across New South Wales and he can't just cut funding.
Maria Hatch is one of 11 people employed by the service, which covers an area from Port Stephens to Corindai in the northwest. Each year it helps up to 1,000 people and struggles to keep pace with demand.
First time ever we've got a waiting list in some areas because we just can't give people an appointment 6 weeks away.
Wallsend Labor MP Sonia Hornery has stepped in to help fight the possible closure, today launching a petition.
This is the only free and confidential service in New South Wales to give people financial assistance. So imagine if those 500 people have nowhere to go, what sort of problems will it create for them, their families and society?
The community who don't have the service to come to are the ones who are going to miss out.
The Department of Finance says the government is committed to ensuring the best use of funding for the public, and to do so it's undertaking additional assessments. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
The main structure of the jetty has been damaged, and we need, for safety reasons, we need to remove it, and all pylons as well. The area is still accessible, and we'll make that safe over the next couple of weeks.
Even in winter, there's no arguing that Newcastle and Nobby's Beach are beautiful, and Surf Lifesaving New South Wales is working to make them more accessible to everyone. It's offering grants of up to $20,000 for councils and businesses to improve facilities for those with a disability.
So for a business it might be installing power outlets that enable a person with a disability to recharge their motor scooter or their wheelchair.
Newcastle was chosen because of its high tourist appeal and the fact it's one of the trial locations for the NDIS.
We're looking at reducing the barriers and promoting attitudes that are welcoming and respectful of people with disability.
Newcastle Now is working with businesses in the city's East End to make the most of the opportunity, which it says could increase trade by up to 20%.
By getting involved with this program, they can find out some really simple strategies for training their staff or making their business more welcoming for people who live with a disability.
Submissions close on August 3. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
So to see this actually being built is absolutely amazing, and we'll have a new club room up for next season, which is fantastic.
For those who don't remember Anthony Watts, here's a reminder. The 28-year-old played more than 50 games in a short but powerful NRL career. It was followed by a string of highly publicised criminal matters which resulted in a stint in jail. He dabbled in boxing and late last year fought Blues skipper Paul Gallen. Watts has since relocated to Newcastle and wants to reignite his football career.
Greg Hurrell and Toto Hurrell, both coaches, have given me the opportunity to come down here, and I see it as a stepping stone to get back into the NRL.
In his first game for the Lions, Watts scored a try, but the celebrations ended with his very next touch.
When I first went into the hospital at John Hunter, they said that I might not ever play football again or be able to box, so that was pretty shattering. But after the surgery, they came to me and said that everything went really well, so I said the rehab will probably be around from 6 to 8 months.
Initial contact between the Knights and Watts had been established, but further discussions have now been put on hold.
Yeah, definitely. I've got a goal to play for Souths next year and then to try and crack the New South Wales Cup for the Knights and then hopefully get a bench spot for the Knights team.
In the meantime and beyond, Watts is determined to remain on the straight and narrow.
I've been through hell in my life and I'm not going to give up with a basic leg injury.
Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News.
Obviously no one's taken a regatta off the Kiwis since London, and every event we come into trying to win it. Haven't been doing a great job of that recently, and we had a pretty bad one in Weymouth, but we'll be really looking to bounce back here.
Only had a couple of days on the water together, so we're trying to figure out how to learn to sail together. But fortunately it's a really good venue, so we haven't really been limited by any conditions.
Friends say Gerard Baber just loved to fly, but the experienced pilot's life tragically came to an end late yesterday when his aerobatic pit special crashed on a property near Maitland.
Oh mate, he loved it. He loved that biplane. It's just devastating.
Emergency services rushed to the scene only to find the 55-year-old's body. Today authorities were still sifting through the wreckage. When fellow pilot Paul Bennett heard of an aircraft was down, he immediately feared the worst for his close friend.
Here I can see where his hangar is. I could see that his car was there and the hangar was open. There was no red biplane, so I quickly just jumped in one of my planes and flew straight out there where I suspected it might be, and I found it pretty well straight away.
A Royal Newcastle Aero Club member, Mr Baber, helped organise last weekend's Hunter Valley Air Show. This is a similar biplane to the one that came crashing down yesterday afternoon. Witnesses say they saw the aircraft topple end over end before hitting the ground.
Watched it and then it just disappeared down, way down too low. I knew, I was hoping to see it come back out, but it just disappeared, and then the explosion, I knew definitely it was down.
Investigators from the Australian Transport Safety Bureau travelled to the scene from Canberra today in an effort to determine the cause of the crash.
Oh, he's unreal, mate. Do anything for anyone. You don't find guys like that every day of the week.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
This car came down the street, slammed on its brakes, pulled into the alleyway, and as they were driving into the alleyway there was a lady hanging out the door, and then when they stopped they all got out of the car and just took off.
It was the stunt meant to put 19-year-old Tyrone Gilks back in the record books. His family and friends, watching his preparations at Maitland Showground, instead witnessed the unthinkable, his death. Today they attended the inquest examining exactly what unfolded that fateful day. Newcastle Coroner's Court heard Mr Gilks was confident he would hit the required speed and make the 90-metre jump. That was despite his support team expressing concerns that he wasn't going fast enough. The court was also told that prior to the fatal jump, a team member told Tyrone's father, Kevin, "I can't argue with him, he won't listen to me." Kevin then said, "Pull him out." The crew member responding, "I am," and it looks like he's committed. Counsel assisting Senior Sergeant Sasha Harding said a witness saw the man waving his arms to try and stop Tyrone from jumping, and that it appears the decisions made by Tyrone within a matter of seconds were the main contributing factors in his death. Coroner Michael Barnes will deliver his findings tomorrow. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Martin Ploy's sewing machine business is something of a Hunter Street institution. The veteran local trader today joined other business owners meeting with Newcastle MP Tim Crackenthorpe to voice concerns about the light rail route.
My business has actually been there since 1935, but I've been there for 40 years. I've seen a lot of changes and I've heard a lot of ideas, but nobody's really come up with the solution. There's got to be somebody out there with a good solution for this.
As currently proposed, light rail would run right past his shop.
I don't think there's quite enough room in Hunter Street to do that, and you would wind up with a lot of traffic problems.
He and other business owners are calling for the plan to be abandoned.
Our particular business isn't going to be terribly adversely affected, but we're a family in this street and in this town, and it's the businesses are suffering as much as the time of BHP closing.
Some are already reporting a downturn in trade since the heavy line was cut.
There is nowhere near as much activity on a Friday night and a Saturday night. As you're probably aware, our hours go rather late those nights, and the Bucks nights aren't coming into town, the Hens nights.
While there are mixed opinions about the best way forward for light rail, the local MP has a clear view.
Let's put that rail down the current rail line and let these businesses survive and prosper.
Meanwhile, the state government has announced the Hunter is in the running to supply a $2.8 billion intercity train fleet. Consortia, including Downer EDI and UGL services, have been shortlisted, with the contract to be awarded next year.
A gentleman by the name of Anthony Chapman, 10 years of age, off Ladies there at Merewether, was winched off the cliff face. When that was our first ever rescue 40 years ago on the 6th of December. We'd love to make contact, or for him to make contact with us. He'd be 50 years of age and we believe he lives in Merewether.
If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have a lot of my flying buddies here today. So it was our way of saying thank you to them for our service over the years.
Playing for Queensland for the first time, Dane Gagai grabbed the Maroons opener. But his Blues-aligned teammates weren't about to sing his praises today.
I haven't talked to him. Yeah, I haven't talked to him, mate. I'll talk to him when he comes down to Canberra in the right colours.
The Origin news wasn't all good for Newcastle, with Beau Scott suspended for one game over this tackle on Cameron Smith. The Knights will play in Canberra without him, amid speculation the nation's capital could see snow this weekend, conjuring up memories of the famous game against the Tigers in 2000.
Personally, I don't mind the cold, but yeah, it might affect others. But mate, Peter Ryan taught me a really good trick that you put deep heat on the bottom of your feet and your toes. Obviously, he played for the Brumbies down there and won it down there with them.
I know a story of Doogie wearing head-to-toe skins trying to get out in the field once and getting called back into the change room. So I don't think there'll be anything like that.
As for the rest of the squad, Tyrone Roberts is reported to be in good spirits, despite Newcastle signing Blues halfback Trent Hodkinson earlier this week. Tyrone's inclusion alongside Jared Mullen in the halves will allow skipper Kurt Gidley to return to fullback.
Gidley leads the way with his talk and his organisation of the defensive line, and that's a crucial role as a fullback to sort that out. And you know, in the last few weeks, we've probably gotten that wrong.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. Last weekend's win against the Central Coast kept Newcastle's men in the playoff hunt. They now need a similar result against the Hornets.
They beat us probably in the third round earlier this year. That was a pretty tough game. We didn't have all of our players, but we're a much better team now.
Ryan Beastie is looking for a big finish to the season before he heads to Division 2 College Regis in Denver.
They had a rough year last year, but the new coaching staff, they're pretty keen to turn things around, and they've got some good teams in the conference.
17-year-old Jasmine Forcadilla will head to the US next June to play with the college that developed the careers of boomers Paddy Mills and Matthew Dellavedova.
I went on a visit to St Mary's earlier this year and fell in love with the area, the people, the team, and it was a no-brainer to commit to that school.
Jasmine and the Hunters women need a win on Saturday to secure a home semi. Unfortunately, Susie Walmsley is still recovering from a broken finger.
It's getting better. She has decided not to play this weekend, but we'll be back for semis.
A family finally able to grieve 2 years after suffering one of the hardest of losses. Today, New South Wales coroner Michael Barnes found the crash that claimed the life of Tyrone Gilkes occurred because he simply wasn't going fast enough, and that despite an attempt to warn him, he jumped. The court heard that while undertaking such jumps can never be done safely, the way the fatal stunt was conducted did not mitigate risks that could have been addressed and would have made it less dangerous. Coroner Barnes expressed concern that a formal risk assessment had not been undertaken and that the need to improve traction on the in-run should have been anticipated, while a more level and well-aligned concrete strip could have been constructed. Furthermore, he found there should have been a more enforceable mechanism for aborting jumps, as the fact Tyrone attempted the jump despite being waved away indicated unaccepted laxity. Coroner Barnes said he didn't suggest Tyrone or his family were cavalier concerning safety, but there was an element of overconfidence and too much reliance placed on trial and error. In handing down his recommendations, the coroner called for more regulation of long-distance motorcycle jumps. He urged that when the Motor Vehicle Sports Public Safety Act is reviewed, consideration be given to making such events subject to the Act's licence requirements. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Police are treating the death as not suspicious at this point in time. However, the cause of death is unknown at this stage.
It was a case of out with the old and in with the new. The site for the new fire station at Maryland is located on Minmai Road, and once complete, it will replace the existing facility at Wallsend, which is more than 90 years old.
1921, their last station was built, so they'll be very happy to have a very new, comfortable fire station.
The new facility will also see a multi-purpose training wing constructed, enabling firefighters from across the Hunter to improve their emergency response skills. It's part of the state government's $18.4 million investment in building or refurbishing fire stations over the next 12 months.
It's a record spend in infrastructure in New South Wales under the Baird government, and the Hunter region has will benefit from that.
One of the biggest growth areas in New South Wales is the Newcastle, Maitland, Cessnock area. So yes, we need to get new fire stations out here and look after the community.
But one person who wasn't invited to the sod turning was the electorate's local member.
The member for Wallsend, Sonia Hornery, she released a statement saying that she's lobbied long and hard for this, and she's a little bit disappointed she's not here today.
Well, it's not normally the process for every MP to be invited to a ministerial visit.
In a bipartisan way, I would have loved to have been there just to represent the community. That's what it's all about, their benefit.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
We're 50% funded by the government at the moment, and we're very thankful of that, but we really do need the support of the wider community to make sure that we can continue to fly.
For the last 4 weeks, David Farlongo's body has been his main concern. His absence from the Knights pack has coincided with a string of defeats. This weekend, the hard-nosed prop with more than 250 top-grade appearances will make his return. A welcome inclusion to a very young bench, which excluding Farlongo, has less than 50 games experience between them.
The body's holding up surprisingly well. The last few weeks have sort of been nurturing my hamstring injury.
The forced rest has given Farlongo time to consider his future.
It's only getting harder. It's getting harder and harder every year. I'd say my last 2 years was probably the best I felt compared to this year.
He arrived in Newcastle 3 years ago after a stint in the English Super League. The 34-year-old has been a mainstay in the Knights pack since. Without a contract beyond the 2015 season, it's expected this will be his last.
It comes to mind. I'm sort of thinking of possibly hanging it up. I can sort of feel that the body's probably getting towards the end of my career. So I'm sure that's probably a story for another day.
To local league and only 2 matches in the real NRL this weekend, with the Scorps on the road to Curry, while on Sunday, Cessnock tackles Central. In Newcastle and Hunter Rugby Union, the Hawks are at home to Uni, the Greens host Carlton, Beaches take on Wanderers, while the Tars can get their season back on track with a win over Singleton. Ben Simmons is about to embark on his college career at Louisiana State University, but next month he'll return down under for a string of warm-up matches.
It would just be good chemistry for us, to experience playing against real teams and, running sets and stuff like that. So I think it would just build a little momentum for us going into the season.
Simmons is hot property, considered LSU's highest profile recruit since Shaquille O'Neal. This week, he was exposed to the local Baton Rouge media for the first time.
Basing the team success for me would be, everyone giving 100%, and that's every game. So every practice, every session, every weight session, that's my idea of success.
James Nitties has enjoyed a bogey-free opening round at the Boise Open to be tied for 14th. While it's been a difficult year, Nitties may be considering a career change. Nathan Outteridge and Ian Jensen struggled in the light winds on day 4 at the European 49er Championships, dropping from 3rd to 11th. Olympic champion Jensen was unfazed by the result.
Last campaign, Tom Slingsby said something that stuck with me a little bit, which is I'm happy to lose every regatta in this 4-year cycle as long as I can win the Olympic Games. I think that's true for most guys who are aspiring to go to the Olympics.
The clean-up from the April superstorm in the Hunter is nearly complete, and the New South Wales Emergency Services Minister is already looking to the future.
So there are a lot of things for us to talk about when this particular recovery is finished.
Despite SES branches in the region fielding over 8,000 call-outs, speeding up response times is on the list.
We always have an after-action review, which looks at what did we do, what did we do well, and where can we improve.
David Elliott is also looking to further educate the public on the dangers associated with floodwater.
I'm still concerned that there were 170 flood rescues, because that means that people aren't listening to the safety messages, and it's putting the members of the SES as their lives at risk.
Ignoring signage and advice is one of the biggest frustrations.
No matter how many times we say to people, do not drive, walk or swim in flood waters, they still do it.
To make matters worse, Maitland branch members are still cleaning up their base after having plenty of problems in the wild weather.
Extremely challenging. We had loss of communications on the Tuesday, which meant that no telephones, no internet, no mobiles, even our GRN radio network was intermittent.
And with damaging winds forecast for the next few days, volunteers are gearing up again.
Trees are still coming over, so we're ramping up so that we can be prepared for tomorrow and Monday when the winds do come through.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
It's a sight many need to see to believe. For the first time in more than a decade, the Hunters Dams are lapping at 99% capacity.
That's the highest level they've actually been in about 13 years.
It's a stark difference to this time last year, when the region's water storage was at an all-time low. Chichester Dam was the driest it's been in its 90-year history.
We've now had water-wise rules in place for 12 months and they've saved us about another 1 billion litres of water, and we in December of last year launched an advanced water treatment plant which is saving us about 3 billion litres a year via recycled water.
The April superstorm provided a much-needed boost, but Hunter Water is warning residents not to be complacent. Even though our dams are looking healthy, water-wise rules still apply, and that means no watering outside during the hottest part of the day, using a broom instead of a hose on driveways and other hard surfaces, as well as ensuring all hoses are fitted with water-saving trigger nozzles.
The reality is that a drought is coming. We don't know when it is, but it will come, and it's really important that we are mindful of our water usage.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
There were some smiles on their return, players no doubt happy to put last night's loss behind them. In positive news, Jared Mullen got through 80 minutes despite carrying a toe injury. The group was staying silent today, determined to put another loss behind it.
We're down on confidence, we're struggling sort of to know how to win a game at the moment, and the way we've started the last couple of games doesn't give you confidence, that's for sure.
Tyrone Roberts showed some flair in his comeback match.
He showed he's a first-grade quality player, and he did some really good things. He had a couple of dips himself.
Tarek Sims was placed on report for this crusher tackle on Blake Austin.
I was talking to Taz about it. He didn't think there was really any pressure. I thought Sam Manaroa coming in probably would have done a bit more damage than Taz, but it's up for the judiciary to have a look at that, and they can sort that out.
Mullen too showed flashes of form. But his opposite was the star of the show, Blake Austin's 15-minute flurry, leaving defenders for dead.
Our defence in the first 20 minutes was poor. I know they scored some tries from kicks, but the ruck speed that Canberra generated in the first 20 minutes was super quick, and it's not NRL standard what we sort of managed in that first 20 minutes.
Sam Gilmore's boot opened the scoring for the Greens, but Maitland's Josh McCormack evened the ledger with a penalty of his own. He showed he's just as handy in general play, slicing through the Greens' defence in his own half before offloading to Keith Benji's. Benji's returned the favour, with McCormack touching down in the corner. Maitland's defence was proving tough for Carlton to crack. They decided to take the points any opportunity they could, but they eventually found a crack, Rapini Mason slicing through before hitting Sam Rouse on the touchline. Greens going to the break with a 5-point lead. Maitland chipped away at the Greens' lead with penalties, McCormack getting them to within 2. Merriweather continued to provide opportunity for the black sharpshooter, who put his side ahead by 1. A high tackle from Rapini Mason and Maitland extended its lead. Sam Gilmore brought them to within 1 before Gareth Ernst surprised everyone with a drop goal to win it.
At around 12:40 this morning, residents at this Glebe Road unit block were woken by an unfolding tragedy.
The lady next door to me, her dog disturbed her, and Penny came out and saw like some smoke around, so she phoned the fire engine.
Firefighters forced their way into the affected apartment, finding a man in the bedroom, but nothing could be done to revive him.
They found a man in there that was unconscious. They performed CPR, but unfortunately they weren't able to save his life.
The 64-year-old's death has left his neighbours shocked.
Well, I didn't see him very much. He was very a quiet man. As he'd pass, he'd always say hello and I'd have a little talk with him. But a nice man.
Police say the fire does not appear to be suspicious. A report will now be prepared for the coroner outlining the circumstances surrounding the man's death. Meredith Gibbs, NBN News.
A male occupant was injured from a gunshot wound to his right knee. That person was conveyed by ambulance to the John Hunter Hospital, where he's undergone surgery.
"2006 was the last time this strip saw passenger aircraft, but that could be about to change.
We would like to get the commuter service back here.
A private consortium purchased the 15-hectare former Aero Pelican site last year, and it now hosts a range of aviation businesses. Finding the right commercial carrier is the new priority.
It'll need to be somebody that is running an airline that knows how to do it, that can afford to lease the planes and already have a terminal in Sydney. I think, there's a potential. It could be somebody like Rex Airlines.
But before that takes off, another high-profile organisation is waiting in the wings. If approved by Lake Macquarie Council, the Westpac Rescue Helicopter Service will build a $4 million facility which will become home to the organisation's operations.
It's wonderful for us. They'll become our anchor tenant and help us pay some of the outgoings for the airport.
The medical retrieval service could be up and running by the end of next year, with the administration and engineering side staying at the current Broadmeadow site.
The teams will have a brand new site to work from, so from a workflow perspective, it's going to be, international standards.
It will also see quicker response times and complement other rescue services nearby.
We're contracted to Ambulance and New South Wales Health, but any work that we do with our emergency service partners, we'll if we're on their doorstep, that just makes a quicker response and better for our communities.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
This would definitely be one of the most contentious development applications that we've dealt with in council. There's been a massive number of public submissions against this proposal.
Get into a little bit of confrontation because you tend to sort of speak back to them and say, well, it's not my dog, it's someone else's dog. And they expect us to pick up other people's dogs' remains.
They're called tap pups, and they're the equivalent to this. Tap Dog's success on a world stage has inspired these young guns no end.
I like watching the tap dogs and how they do all these good moves, so that inspired me to do tap dancing. I saw the tap dogs once and they were just really inspiring.
The studio in Newcastle West is run by Renee Perry, who loves every moment of putting them through their paces.
To get so many boys tap dancing is incredible. They're only a bunch of boys that love to belt it out nice and loud.
While their mates play various types of sport, treading the boards is their chosen one.
For them, it's almost a team sport because they do have to think what the other kids are doing and try and work as one, which makes it a team sport.
This week they had a special visitor. Dean Perry knows all too well just how important grassroots tap dancing is, and only has praise for his sister.
She's kept the legacy going on, and we're really proud of her. For a school to be in Newcastle, really where we all started as kids learning to tap, so to keep that tradition going here, it's special.
After leaving the Newcastle Steelworks, this performer danced his way to some of the world's biggest stages. Tap Dogs The Stage Show has toured the world for the past 20 years, and Dean and his brother Sheldon worked in separate ways to establish the global brand. The show is currently in Germany, and the creator has a hands-on role just as much as he did from day one.
I can watch a show live via Skype and do notes while it's going on. By the time they've had the shower, they've got their notes for that show. Or what I've been doing last week is I'll sit there and do a 3-hour rehearsal with them in Germany in my shed in my office in Randwick.
Dean's other job is overseeing match entertainment for NRL clubs Manly and Souths, but that pressure is nothing compared to the opening ceremony at the 2000 Sydney Olympics.
In the dress rehearsal the night before, it didn't all come together. I remember when that routine was finished on the night, I left, got on a train and went home and had a spew out the side of the venue and went home. That was probably the most pressure I ever felt.
But getting back to the new litter, their star is rising fast.
There's always, like I said, various charity type of things that the kids do. We're filming a kids' TV show this week as well that they'll be featured on.
Daring to dream all the way.
It's always great to dream. You've got to have your goals, you've got to set your goals and work hard, really,
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Third versus eighth, and the Goannas showed just why they were the favourites in the second minute. But it wasn't long before Central hit back, beginning the back and forth nature of the clash. Sean Metcalf stepped up the intensity, but at the break, the two sides couldn't be split. The game opened up in the second, the home side with the early advantage. But from the kickoff, they handed possession straight back, and through Metcalf, Cessnock drew level. But again the lead changed, thanks to a hopeful tap from Shane Ryan. Into the final minutes, the Goannas tried something special. A fortunate bounce gave Cal Orchard space, but it was his offload that saw Zeb Dunstan go over. But Central wasn't finished yet. With the clock ticking down, Shane Ryan went alone, showing just enough speed to find the line and produce a memorable win. Samuel Jordan, NBN News. With the top four beginning to edge away, 3 points were crucial for both sides. Broadmeadow enjoyed most of the ball in the opening exchanges, but it took a misplaced pass from Kim Tae-sung to give the Magic the space it needed. Dino Fajkovic making no mistake. That seemed to bring the buds to life, and after a string of near misses, a stinging effort from Matthew Paul landed right in front of Nick Bale. Unfortunately for the crowd watching on for Old Boys Day, in the second half it became a one-sided contest. A careless foul from Nick Hills gave the visitors a chance. Peter Haynes didn't waste it. It seemed for the Magic every touch was turning to gold. A reckless challenge from Bale handed Broadmeadow another set piece, and thanks to a mistimed clearance, Levi's Descenge made it count. And started the celebrations early. Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
All I know is I turned for the corner and I got massive hit in the rear, and then I got cleaned up in the front. So really disappointing way to finish the weekend.
T4 back in the spotlight. Less than 12 months after the first public hearings were held, a second round began today in response to the level of interest in the controversial project. Among today's 52 speakers, Ian Dunlop, the former chair of the Australian Coal Association, now a climate change campaigner.
Coal is not going to disappear tomorrow morning, but it cannot expand in the way that people are currently talking about. Otherwise, we have basically a planet that's going to go into severe downturn.
The loader would be capable of processing up to 70 million tonnes of coal per year. Local GP Dr Ben Ewald believes the project poses health concerns.
The dust in the air is affecting children's lung growth, leading to more asthma and leading to more exacerbations of people with emphysema and that kind of problem. So, yeah, the new coal loader would just make the air quality worse.
But Port Waratah Coal Services is sticking by its proposal despite challenging market conditions.
It's about positioning the industry to be able to take advantage of opportunities when they arrive in the future.
The Port of Newcastle agrees, saying the Hunter's coal export capacity will continue to grow, driven by increasing demand from Asia. The hearing continues tomorrow. Renee Feder, NBN News.
11:27 on Christmas night, the last train departed Newcastle Station.
We've won the battle to keep the tracks. Now we've got to get the trains back on them again.
Since then, tracks have been tarred over at level crossings, pedestrian crossings created, and the government's even released plans for multi-storey developments along the corridor. The battle lines are drawn ahead of a Court of Appeal hearing on Wednesday. At the heart of the matter, Section 99A of the Transport Administration Act, which says a rail infrastructure owner must not, unless authorised by an Act of Parliament, close a railway line, an act the government is yet to create.
It is not going to go through that process because it doesn't have the numbers in the upper house. But it's the law, and the government should obey the law.
Instead, Rail Corp sought to transfer ownership of the land to another government agency, the Hunter Development Corporation, and last year argued HDC doesn't fall within the Act's definition. A Supreme Court judge disagreed, saying HDC would become a rail infrastructure owner and therefore an Act of Parliament was needed.
And both Houses of Parliament voting on the closure of the Newcastle rail line.
The government will appeal that ruling on Wednesday. Save Our Rail, meanwhile, just wants train services restored. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Foggy and freezing, but a spectacle not to be missed. Up to 30 centimetres of snow fell on the Barrington tops overnight, just in time for the last day of school holidays. And it seemed the younger you were, the less you felt the cold, in most cases anyway.
We've been up here a couple of times with the kids before, but it's Josh's first time here, and it's the first decent amount of snow that we've seen in years up here.
There was some snow surfing and plenty of snowball fights. Mostly, there was just one thing on their minds.
Now we're going to build a snowman.
Build a snowman. And it wasn't just the youngsters excited.
I've been there 8 years in Tassie and it's never like this, never. We had to come all this way to find some real snow, yes. Love it.
The more mature visitors also made sure snowmen were prepared for the cold night ahead. The only downside, the rain and wind, which closed the entry to the national park and restricted access to four-wheel drives.
Drive to the conditions, slow down, be considerate of other people, and definitely do not bring two-wheel drive vehicles into snowy conditions like this.
Pretty hectic. I've never seen it as thick as it is up here. Better slow drive back down.
While the wet conditions stopped people from going all the way to the top today, it certainly didn't stop them from having a good time.
Not that bad. I mean, it's cold, it's wet, but still having fun.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Mackenzie and Georgia Chenhall know all too well the devastating effect Lyme disease can have on a family. It's something they've lived through.
Our mum's been through it too and it's horrible. And it'd be good to see less people going through that.
In a recent NBN News series, the girl's mother, Karina, spoke of her battle against both the illness and the Australian health system in an attempt to reclaim her life. But it was the story of Talia Smith the sisters found particularly confronting.
Well, I was kind of shocked that someone so young could, be suffering so bad.
So they decided to do something about it. Enlisting the help of friends, they created a car washing service to help raise money for the 21-year-old's treatment. After door-knocking across the neighbourhood, the group managed to drum up business. So much, it was soon swamped with orders. Together, the keen cleaners spent the final 4 days of their school holidays taking to the town's cars.
It was probably the best timing because we could do it for more.
It's very unique. I'm really proud of all of them. Yeah, it makes me quite, I'm really proud of them because it's really special and thinking about others and giving up their holidays.
All team members well aware of the benefits treatment abroad could have on Talia's life.
We wanted to help Talia get over to Germany to get better because Karina has come up really well?
I think because they could relate to it. They'd been down a very similar path, and I think because they've got their mum back, and I think they could just maybe understand and feel how that family must feel. They don't understand, like why is nobody helping that girl when they actually know there's a solution?
Close to $1,000 has been raised, proving a little hard work goes a long way.
Yeah, it is really good to think. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
We've never had the capacity, remember, to go to this depth before. The old vessel that we had could only go to 3,000 metres, and yet more than half of Australia's claim is deeper than that.
A sixth straight loss on Friday night, but today at training, most of the attention was off the field, with Tyrone Roberts denying he's looking to leave. Is that the case?
No, mate. My main focus at the moment is winning some games, and that's next year, and I can't control that.
He was also keen to quash suggestions he met with Titans officials last week.
I heard about that, but I was at Nambucca, just doing some promo work with Indigenous kids about NAIDOC, and that's just all stories. It's not the truth, so.
While he returned against Canberra, Jared Mullen's toe is again proving painful, and while he hopes to play again this season, it's far from certain.
Yeah, probably train session to train session, but I think I've got to make a decision pretty soon what I'm sort of going to do, because I can't really keep skipping sessions and missing important things I need to do out there.
The 5'8" is also hurting from the loss. Today he was keen to defend his teammates and coach.
Oh look, Stoney's not the one out there on the field. He's doing all the preparation and the game planning, and he's just trying to manage everyone at the moment. We've got a lot of young kids in the team that it's probably their first or second year rugby league.
Meanwhile, Robbie Rockhow has returned to the training park without a cast on his arm, but he believes it'll be at least another 4 weeks before he returns.
I can do everything now, drive and all the little things, but in terms of doing load-bearing weight stuff, that'll take a little while.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News. First day on the job with his new club, but Lachlan Jackson saw plenty of positives.
There's a lot of drive in the group, led by the leaders. You can pick them out already, and it's really looking good.
The 20-year-old centre-back comes to the Jets with only 3 A-League appearances to his name, but he trained closely with the likes of Bessa Barisha and Thomas Broich during his 3 years at the Raw.
They're really good with the young guys. After training, they'll come and tell you what you did wrong, what you can improve on. So it's a great environment to learn up there, and I'm pretty sure it's the same down here. The likes of Bogart, Mullen, all quality centre-backs.
Jackson also turned to another experienced teammate, former Jets captain Jade North, for advice about the move.
I did, to be honest. How is it down here? What's it like? And he recommended it.
And he wasn't the only new face at training today. Former Melbourne City winger Ian Ramsey and Raw striker Kofi Danning both joined the squad. They're trialling until the end of the week. Samuel Jordan, NBN News.